Today, I'm gonna tell you about how I tried to do some charitable good deeds and ended up creating a neighborhood food distribution crisis that required damage control. I'm Nick, the Stallion, Navarro, but my friends call me Stolly. One day, I might tell you why, if you can handle it. Strap in, puppies. This ride's about to crash beautifully. My puppies, this legendary disaster happened during my senior year when I was trying to pad my college applications with community service hours. You know how it is. Universities love that volunteer work nonsense, and Uncle Stolly here needed all the help he could get after my disastrous SAT scores. That's when I had the brilliant idea to drag Cap along for some charitable adventures. He was equally desperate for volunteer hours, so we signed up at this local food bank called Golden Valley Care Center. The coordinator was this sweet elderly lady named Mrs. Anderson, who looked like she baked cookies for orphans in her spare time. She explained our mission with the enthusiasm of a TV evangelist. Today you boys will be delivering food baskets to families in the Riverside neighborhood. It's important work. These families are counting on you. She handed us a hand-drawn map that looked like it was created by a kindergartner with artistic aspirations, along with a list of addresses written in handwriting that would challenge a professional codebreaker. Mrs. Anderson loaded our beat-up Honda Civic with about 15 food baskets packed with canned goods, rice, pasta, and other essentials. The car was so stuffed we could barely see through the back window. But Uncle Stolly was feeling like a modern-day Robin Hood ready to save the neighborhood. That's when Cap made his first contribution to our charitable disaster. Don't worry, Stolly. I've got excellent navigation skills. I once found a McDonald's in a completely unfamiliar part of town. My puppies, that should have been red flag number 1. Cap's navigation skills were about as reliable as his ability to talk to TV goddesses without stumbling over his own tongue. We loaded into the car with Cap holding the mysterious map upside down, confidently pointing in what I would later discover was the completely wrong direction. But I trusted him because, as any legend would do, I was focused on the bigger picture of my charitable greatness. 20 minutes into our humanitarian mission, I started noticing we were driving through neighborhoods that definitely didn't match the addresses on our list. The street signs were showing completely different names, and the house numbers were going in the opposite direction from what we needed. Cap, are you sure we're going the right way? These street names don't match anything on our list. Absolutely, Stolly. Sometimes maps show alternate routes. This is probably a shortcut. That's when I realized we'd been driving in circles for over an hour. The same corner store had appeared in our windshield 3 times, and the gas station attendant was starting to wave at us like old friends. My puppies, we were more lost than a tourist in a foreign country without Google Translate. Cap had managed to navigate us into a completely different part of the city, and our food baskets were getting warm in the afternoon sun. When we finally admitted we were hopelessly lost and decided to ask for directions, Cap volunteered to get out and check with some locals. That's when Captain Cockblock demonstrated his legendary coordination skills. As Cap was climbing out of the passenger side, he somehow managed to catch his foot on the seatbelt while simultaneously grabbing the door handle for balance. The physics of what happened next would challenge Einstein's theories about gravity and motion. Cap went down like a sack of potatoes, taking 3 food baskets with him in a spectacular cascade of canned goods and charitable intentions. Soup cans were rolling down the sidewalk like bowling balls, boxes of pasta were exploding like confetti cannons, and bags of rice were creating a grainy snowstorm across the pavement. The great bastard was lying on the ground surrounded by enough scattered food to feed a small army, while neighborhood kids started appearing out of nowhere to investigate the free grocery explosion. My luck was that a group of local teenagers thought we were some kind of food truck having a malfunction. They started helping us collect the scattered items, but half the canned goods had rolled into storm drains or under parked cars. By the time we reassembled our remaining food baskets, we were down to about 10 complete packages and a collection of dented cans that looked like they'd survived a natural disaster. But Uncle Stolly never gives up, and must stay hard on his journey. Very hard, and slightly to the left. We finally found the correct neighborhood after stopping at a gas station and getting proper directions from someone who understood how maps actually work. But our charitable adventure was just getting warmed up for maximum disaster potential. The first address on our list was 1247 Oak Street. Simple enough, right? Wrong. The house numbers in this neighborhood seemed to follow some kind of mysterious logic that defied conventional mathematics. We found 1245 Oak Street, then 1251 Oak Street, but 1247 was apparently hiding in some kind of numerical Bermuda Triangle. After walking up and down the block like lost pizza delivery drivers, I made an executive decision that would haunt me for the rest of the day. Cap, that house right there between 1245 and 1251 has to be 1247. It's basic math. Are you sure, Stallion? The mailbox doesn't have any numbers on it. Trust me, I know how street addresses work. My puppies, I approached the front door with the confidence of a stallion delivering charitable greatness. A middle-aged woman answered, looking confused but polite. Hi, we're from Golden Valley Care Center. We have a food basket delivery for your family. The woman's face went through several expressions: confusion, embarrassment, and then something resembling horror. Oh no, I think there's been a mistake. We don't need any food assistance. We're doing fine financially. That's when I realized I just offered charity to a family who didn't need it, implying it looked like they were struggling when they were perfectly comfortable. The embarrassment was reaching legendary proportions. As I was trying to apologize and back away from this social catastrophe, the woman's neighbor came out to see what was happening. This neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez, was actually supposed to receive the food basket, but she lived at 1245 Oak Street, not the address I'd mistakenly approached. Mrs. Rodriguez looked at me holding her food basket while talking to her well-off neighbor, and her face showed the kind of hurt that Uncle Stolly never wants to cause anyone. Excuse me, are you from the food bank? I've been waiting all afternoon for my delivery. That's when the full scope of my disaster became clear. I'd accidentally offered charity to someone who didn't need it, while the person who actually needed help was watching the whole embarrassing exchange. My puppies, I was trying to apologize to both women simultaneously, while Cap stood behind me holding dented cans and looking like he wanted to disappear into the sidewalk. The well-off neighbor was trying to be polite about my mistake, while Mrs. Rodriguez was clearly wondering why her food delivery was being offered to someone else first. The social complexity was beyond anything Uncle Stolly was prepared to handle. In my panic to fix the situation, I started over-explaining everything in that special way that turns a small mistake into a neighborhood incident. Ma'am, I'm so sorry, we're volunteers, and we got confused about the addresses. This basket is definitely for you, Mrs. We have you on our list here somewhere. I was frantically shuffling through our paperwork like a game show contestant running out of time, while both women watched my charitable meltdown with growing concern. That's when divine inspiration struck, or what I thought was divine inspiration. I decided to give Mrs. Rodriguez 2 food baskets instead of one, thinking this would somehow make up for the initial embarrassment. After all, we had extra baskets in the car, and Uncle Stolly always does things right when he's trying to fix his mistakes. Here, please take an extra basket for the inconvenience. We really appreciate your patience with our volunteer learning process. Mrs. Rodriguez accepted the baskets graciously, but I could see the confusion in her eyes. She was probably wondering why the food bank suddenly decided to double her allocation. As we continued down the street, Cap's navigation skills continued to demonstrate why he earned his nickname. Every address seemed to lead us to another geographical mystery that challenged our understanding of how street numbers work. While I was carefully verifying delivery details at the next house, Cap was leaning against the side of our Honda Civic in what he probably thought was a casual pose. What neither of us realized was that the door wasn't properly closed, and due to the slope of the ground, it was slowly opening on its own. The door swung open just as a group of kids was riding their bikes down the street. One kid had to swerve to avoid the suddenly opening car door, which caused a chain reaction of bicycle chaos that would make a stunt coordinator proud. 3 kids ended up in someone's front yard. 2 bikes got tangled together like mechanical pretzels, and one little girl started crying because her training wheels got bent in the confusion. Pause for you to imagine those bike pretzels. By the way, if you're enjoying this story, hit that like button. It really helps me keep these coming. My puppies, we went from charitable volunteers to neighborhood menaces in about 30 seconds. Parents started coming out of houses to see what happened, and suddenly Uncle Stolly was in the middle of a bicycle accident investigation. Cap was apologizing profusely while trying to untangle the bikes, but his coordination skills weren't any better with bicycle repair than they were with food basket transportation. One of the dads was examining his daughter's bike like a crime scene investigator, while another parent was asking if we had insurance for volunteer-related bicycle incidents. That's when I realized our charitable adventure had turned into a potential lawsuit situation. The kids were fine, but the bikes needed professional attention, and the parents were starting to ask questions about our volunteer organization's liability policies. While we were dealing with the bicycle incident, I lost track of our remaining food baskets. In all the confusion, someone had apparently taken 2 of our baskets from the car, either as a good Samaritan helping us out, or as someone who figured free food was free food regardless of the delivery circumstances. Now we were short on food baskets, behind on our delivery schedule, and potentially responsible for bicycle repair costs that would probably exceed our non-existent volunteer budget. My phone started ringing. It was Mrs. Anderson from the food bank, and she sounded like a kindergarten teacher who'd just discovered her classroom had been redecorated with finger paint. "Nick, I've been getting some interesting phone calls about your food delivery activities. Would you mind explaining why Mrs. Jen called to thank us for the unexpected double delivery, and why Mr. Garcia is asking about bicycle insurance claims?" My puppies, I had to explain to this sweet elderly lady how Cap and I had managed to turn a simple food delivery route into a neighborhood incident that required damage control and administrative investigation. The conversation lasted about 15 minutes, during which Mrs. Anderson's tone gradually shifted from confused to concerned to something resembling maternal disappointment. "Boys, I think perhaps we should wrap up your volunteer activities for today. Please return any remaining food baskets to the office, and we'll discuss how to handle the various situations you created." By the time we returned to Golden Valley Care Center, our charitable adventure had generated more paperwork than a tax audit. Mrs. Anderson had to document the bicycle incident, correct the food distribution errors, and probably revise their volunteer training program to prevent future disasters. Boys, volunteer work requires attention to detail and careful responsibility. Perhaps next time you might consider starting with something simpler, like sorting donations in the warehouse. My puppies, we got demoted from charitable heroes to warehouse inventory assistants in one afternoon. Our college application volunteer hours would now consist of organizing canned goods in alphabetical order under direct supervision. As we were leaving the food bank, we ran into 3 families from the neighborhood who'd come to inquire about the confusion surrounding their food deliveries. Apparently, our charitable disaster had created a ripple effect that required personal attention from Mrs. Anderson. One family never received their scheduled delivery because we'd gotten lost and couldn't find their address. Another family was wondering why they received an unexpected extra basket. The third family wanted to know if the bicycle incident was related to their missing food delivery. Uncle Stallion here was standing in the food bank lobby, listening to Mrs. Anderson explain our various mistakes to people who'd been counting on a simple food delivery service. The embarrassment was reaching epic proportions. These families needed reliable help, and we'd turned their assistance program into a comedy of errors that required damage control and personal apologies. That's when I realized that volunteer work isn't about padding college applications or feeling good about charitable intentions. It's about actual people who need reliable help, and Uncle Stallion had treated their assistance program like some kind of adventure game. Cap and I ended up spending the next 2 weekends doing inventory work at the food bank, learning proper procedures, and helping Mrs. Anderson rebuild the delivery system we'd accidentally demolished. The bicycle repairs cost about $50, which came out of our part-time job money. The families eventually received their correct food deliveries through more reliable volunteers, and Mrs. Anderson implemented a new volunteer training program that included basic navigation skills and property damage prevention. My reputation in the volunteer community became legendary for all the wrong reasons. Other charitable organizations in town had apparently heard about the Golden Valley Care Center incident, because every time I tried to sign up for community service, coordinators would ask very specific questions about my transportation abilities and attention to detail. Captain Cockblock, being the low-budget Judas he is, somehow managed to blame most of the disaster on map-reading difficulties and unforeseeable bicycle-related complications. Stolly, we learned a lot about charitable responsibility and community service logistics, plus that inventory work really improved our organizational skills. My luck was that Mrs. Anderson eventually forgave our charitable catastrophe and even wrote decent recommendation letters for our college applications. But she made sure to mention our learning curve and grow through hands-on experience, which was probably code for survived volunteer-related disaster without permanent damage. That's the story, my puppies. Another glorious disaster in the legendary chronicles of Uncle Stolly. I went from charitable hero to neighborhood liability in one afternoon, proving that good intentions without proper preparation can create more problems than solutions. The forbidden territory of volunteer work taught me that helping people requires actual competence, not just enthusiastic intentions. And sometimes, the people who need help deserve better than whatever chaos Uncle Stolly brings to their assistance programs. Stallion never backs down. Unless it involves accurate navigation, bicycle safety, and the difference between charity and embarrassment. This isn't even the craziest thing that happened to me. So stick around, subscribe, hit the like, and I'll tell you the rest. And hey, got a story you want me to read as Stallion himself? Drop it in the comments. Until the next embarrassment. Nick the Stallion, Navarro.